Love that little song they play. Baggage. We are dealing with baggage this last few weeks, and looking at those things, those big things that we carry around, we lug around, we keep having in our possession, baggage. Today we're going to look at one that I think we all carry around. Maybe we deny it, maybe we don't pay attention to it, but we kind of have it on our back like a knapsack or a big, huge rollaway, piece of luggage. And we're going to talk about that one today. Ever heard from something that someone said was true, but you weren't quite sure it was true? You kind of doubted it was true. You weren't certain that it was true. Anybody had that happen to them? Nobody. Okay, well, that's not true. All right, so let's do this. We're going to talk a little bit about doubt today and a little bit about uncertainty today. So we'll start off with a little, quiz, game of fact or fiction, certainty and doubt. So I'm going to give you some statements. You're going to raise your hand if you are certain it's true. And then I'll ask you to raise your hand if you kind of doubt that it's true. You ready? First one is this. Reno, Nevada is farther west than Los Angeles. How many of you are certain that is true? A few. How many of you are like, I don't know? Well, it's true. Take a look at this. There's Reno. There's Los Angeles. Okay? Because, LA's kind of tucked underneath there in the bottom of the United States. How about this one? The state that is closest to Africa is Maine. How many are certain that's true? Couple. How many are like, I'm not, maybe. Next one? Let's see it. It is. It is actually the closest U.S. state to Africa is Maine. So if you take a flight to Africa, you go to Maine. Just becomes kind of weird. If you fly directly south from Detroit, Michigan. Now, if you're from Michigan, you can't answer this question, Jim. If you're from Michigan, or if you fly from Detroit, you hit the Canadian border. How many are certain that's true? Okay, a few more. How many say, nope, it's not true, I doubt that's true? Okay, a few. Truth is, it is, right there. You run into Canada right through there. Little bitty. Okay, next one. This one's not so much a geographical question. President Richard Nixon owned an amphibious car and used to drive guests into the lake to scare them, screaming about brake failure. How many say that is absolutely 100% true? I know Nixon. How many say, no, I doubt that? Okay, actually, it's not true. It was Lyndon B. Johnson who did that. That's kind of a weird kind of presidential thing to do. All right, last question. Russia is bigger than Pluto. How many are true? Say, yeah, that's true. Okay, Tom's certain. How many say, no, not too sure? Actually, it's true. Russia is as big as Pluto. Neither are our planet, though, so that's how that goes. Here's the thing. A lot of you didn't raise your hand. That's my point, actually, was that. I saw maybe like 4 or 5 here, 4 or 5 there, because a lot of us don't like to put ourselves out there when it comes to doubt. We don't. We're like, hey, I doubt things. We think certainty is a good thing, and that doubt is a bad thing, kind of in general. And that's not really always the case. Doubt and skepticism are things we don't talk about. We pack it away in boxes. We put it like luggage. And we don't deal with doubt and skepticism and uncertainty. But we're going to open that bag up today. So if that's you today, if you come here with some doubt and some skepticism, this is the Sunday for you. Because I think sometimes when it comes to church especially, we don't like to talk about doubt. When it comes to issues of faith, matters of God, our relationship with God, we want to talk in certainties. And that we see doubt as a negative, even a sinful thing when it comes to doubt and skepticism. But the truth is, doubt is part of our existence. It's part of who we are. We are uncertain about a lot of things. Maybe we're uncertain about what to do with our lives. We're uncertain about if we should take that job or not. We doubt our financial decisions or, the classes I'm going to take for next semester. Whatever it is, we have doubt. Even lawyers refer to something as reasonable doubt. Not no doubt, but reasonable doubt. So is doubt reasonable? And actually, the real question of doubt is not whether we have it, because I'm going to guarantee that all of us have had doubt about something at some point in our life, or we've been uncertain about something at some point in our life. My question today is going to be about what do we do with it? The question is not about do we have doubt, but what do we do with doubt? How do we handle it when it comes to our lives? Because there's a lot of different ways that we handle doubt. Some people are what I call the never doubters. They never doubt. I mean, they may be way wrong, but they won't admit it, and they'll never doubt it. They are 100% certain. They'll ignore it, deny it, but they won't doubt it. We see this a lot in our political world. We see it a lot in the religious world. People that are 100% certain. Atheists can be 100% certain of their views. Christians can be 100% certain of their views. Then they have no questions to ask. But the problem is we become indifferent then. We become indifferent to question. We don't grow. What they say is, I can't know what I can't know, so go about my everyday life. Hashtag don't know, don't care. And they quit asking questions. They quit trying to grow. The never doubters. The next group is a little more dangerous, and those are folks that thrive on uncertainty. They love uncertainty. When they find someone who is certain, they go after them. They want to take away that uncertainty. They want to show that they're right in being uncertain or unknowing. They see it as a badge of honor, or even that they're well educated because they don't know. And they poke holes in anybody else who thinks they do. And the most dangerous group of folks when it comes to doubt, probably the biggest group, are those that are guilty when it comes to doubt. They have anxiety. They feel bad. They feel guilty that they even have doubt. The question is irrelevant. They just feel bad that they doubt it. And the problem with that is it's like quicksand. They lose their confidence. They're afraid to ask. They're afraid to tell anybody they've got questions. So how can they get answers if they can't ask the questions? And they don't go to anybody about it, and they just kind of hide it, and they bury it inside themselves. They carry it around like this big, heavy bag they carry around by themselves and hope no one sees it. And that's doubt for them. That's a terrifying place to be because you're stuck. You're stuck in doubt. You're stuck in uncertainty. So we all have questions about doubt. So how are you and I going to deal with it? What's a good, healthy approach to dealing with the doubts that we do have? And maybe actually the bigger question is, how does God handle doubt? Our doubt. How does God handle doubters, people like us? I mean, think about it. If we have doubts about little things, if we have doubts about big things like theology, our relationship with God, who God is, what God does, how does God handle us? Those people who are uncertain and doubt from time to time. Well, we're going to talk about that. And the first thing I want you to know is you're not alone. I think everyone doubts. Everybody, including you, including me. We all have doubts and uncertainties from time to time. And the second thing is, this is the cool thing about doubt, is the Bible deals with it again and again head on. It does. It deals with doubt all the time. We miss it sometimes, but it deals with it. And it's great that it's out there. So we're going to look at a couple stories today. The first one is, Jesus is with his disciples one day, well, at least three of them. They're on this mountaintop and they have this great religious experience. We call it the Transfiguration. It's a great experience. They're coming down the mountain, Jesus and his three friends, Peter, James, and John. They're coming down the hill, and his other disciples are there. They're trying to help this guy who's got a son who is both ill and demon-possessed. And this kid's in a lot of trouble. It says this demon is throwing this kid into the fire and hurting him, and the kid is uncontrollable, and the dad's just heartbroken. And the disciples have not been able to heal this boy. And so the father goes to the dad. And in Mark 9, 22, it says, he goes to Jesus, and he says, if you are able to do anything, have pity on us and help us. What kind of question is that? It's a question of doubt. Right? He goes to Jesus, and he says, if you are able. I mean, if you can do anything at all, if you can help me, do it. If. And Jesus responds like this. Next verse. If you are able, all things can be done for the one who believes. Like, if you are able, are you kidding me? Like, I can walk on water. You know, I can feed 5,000 for lunch. If I'm able. So in some ways, you kind of wonder, is Jesus angry with him? I don't think so, but if you are able, and I wonder if I was the dad. Now put yourself in the dad's shoes just for a second. Jesus says, if I'm able, how would you respond? Would you be like, yeah, would you lie? Yeah, I'm 100% certain, Jesus, I believe you. You can do it. Go for it. Would you say that to Jesus? Would you feel badly and not say anything at all? How would you respond? Well, the dad has more integrity than to lie to Jesus. And after all, he has some reasonable doubt. I mean, he has a reason for it. His disciples couldn't cure him. There's reasonable doubt in this man. And he confesses that to Jesus. Verse 24. Immediately the father of the child cried out, I believe. Help my unbelief. That's, I think, the greatest prayer in the Bible. He admits to Jesus, I've got doubts. I mean, I believe, but there's this gap. There's this bit I don't believe about. I'm uncertain about certain things. Help my unbelief. That's a prayer, right? I believe, help my unbelief is a prayer. It's a prayer of doubt. And what does Jesus do with this grain of sand of faith surrounded by an ocean of uncertainty and doubt? What does he do with that? He takes that grain of belief and he heals the boy. Now, the end of this story has always been puzzling to me. Jesus heals this boy, the demon comes out, and the boy is returned to his father whole. Great story. But then the disciples come up to Jesus, and they're wondering why they couldn't do anything. Verse 27, Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he was able to stand. When he had entered the house, his disciples asked him privately, why could we not cast it out? He said to them, this kind can come out only through prayer. And that's always bothered me, always. Because I wondered, surely the disciples thought about prayer. I mean, these are Jesus' disciples. They've been hanging out with him for a good period by this time. I'm sure they thought to pray. So what is he talking about here? I'm just kind of wondering. And I was thinking this week, maybe what Jesus is talking about is the Father's prayer, not their prayer. This prayer that says, help me in my unbelief. Because I'm sure the disciples were struggling too, but being honest about their doubt, honest about their uncertainty. Like this father was honest to God about his uncertainty and his doubt. And he shared that with Jesus. He didn't try to hide it or lie about it or bury it or deny it. He said, hey, I'm struggling. I believe, but right now, in this moment, I need you to help me with my unbelief. Maybe that was the prayer that Jesus was looking for. Another story about doubt is from John the Baptist. Now, most of you know who John the Baptist is, right? He's the man, right? He's the cousin of Jesus. He is the first one to recognize Jesus when he's in his mother's womb, if you remember that story from Luke. He is the guy who's a great prophet. People came out to the desert to hear what he had to say. Like he's in the middle of nowhere, and leaders and people are coming out to hear him. He pulls no punches. He tells the truth, and they still are there. And then one day, Jesus comes to him, and he baptizes Jesus. He sees the heavens open. He hears God's voice, sees a dove come down and come to Jesus. And all this happens to John. And in fact, Jesus himself said this about John the Baptist. This is Matthew 11, verse 11. Truly I tell you, among those born of woman, no one has arisen greater than John the Baptist. Did you catch that? Nobody is better than John. No human. Not Abraham, not Moses, not David, not Elijah, nobody. Wouldn't that be great to put on your LinkedIn page? Rated number 1 human by God. You're overqualified. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. I mean, he is like the best. And so you'd think that perhaps he would have complete, certain faith. If he's the best of anybody who's ever lived, you would think of anybody he'd have certain faith. And I think he did. Until it became uncertain. Until it got shaken. Until he faced a crisis in his life. And maybe that's you. Maybe you've come to that point where you faced some crisis. You had strong faith. And then something happened to shake up that faith. Maybe it was you lost your job, or your relationship with your spouse fell apart, or you got that file from the doctor that had some news that changed your future, or you failed that exam in college. But something happened that took your faith that was once unshakable and shook it to its core. For John, that was being in prison. He was put in prison by a cruel dictator, waiting his execution. And he's sitting in his prison cell, and he begins to have some doubts about Jesus. And so he sends his disciples to go to Jesus and ask him, so, are you the one who's to come? I mean, are you the guy? I mean, I said all these things about you. Was I right? Was I wrong? Are you the one that we were waiting for? Or wait for somebody else? Which, by the way, could be a little offensive if you were Jesus, right? If your cousin said, hey, man, are you the guy or not? Wouldn't you could be offended by that. Jesus could be offended. He could be like, are you kidding me? I mean, John, you saw heavens open. You heard God's voice talk about me. You baptized me, John. Maybe you're the guy I didn't expect. But he doesn't do that. Jesus doesn't get mad at him. He doesn't accuse him. He doesn't berate him for his doubt. Instead, he strengthens it. In Matthew 11, verse 4, he tells these disciples of John, go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, and the dead are raised, and the poor have the good news brought to them. And blessed is anyone who takes no offense at me. He says, go and tell John what I'm doing. Just tell him what I'm doing. I'm doing the things that God said I would do. I'm doing the things that God does. Takes care of the poor and the injured and the lame and the deaf. I'm doing those things. And so he doesn't berate John. He encourages his doubt. He strengthens him. He honors his question. When Jesus meets uncertain faith and doubt, even from the greatest person on the planet, he honors that question and answers it. Powerful stuff. What about Thomas? You know who Thomas is? We call him this. Here's the problem with that. There's only one Thomas in the Bible. There's only one. You can say, Thomas. But we say, doubting Thomas. We add this adjective for this poor guy. But he had reasonable doubt, if you ask me. So Thomas is the guy, when Jesus raises from the dead, is not around when he shows up. So the disciples tell him, hey, Thomas, Jesus is back from the dead. He's like, say what? He's like, no. Which, by the way, he doesn't believe them, and that's completely reasonable because these disciples of Jesus, what were they doing for the last 3 days? They were hiding. What did they do when Jesus was arrested? They ran. And now he's going to believe them? So, his doubt is 100% reasonable. And so Jesus doesn't get mad at him. He doesn't berate him. In fact, Thomas says this to the other disciples. He says, unless I see the marks of the nails in his hands and put my finger in the marks of the nails in my hand and his side, I will not believe. I'm not. I need to see it for myself. I'm not going to trust you guys. That's reasonable, in my opinion. So I don't think you should be called doubting Thomas. It's reasonable doubting Thomas, if anything. And Jesus shows up. He doesn't get mad. Say, okay, Thomas, you're out. Get out, Thomas. You didn't believe these guys. Get out. No. What does he do? He shows up to Thomas. He says, come here. Touch my hands. Right? He strengthens Thomas's doubt. He honors Thomas's uncertainty. And here's the best part of these three stories. They're all in the Bible. If you think about it, it would have been really easy for them to leave out the story of John's doubt. There's no reason for it to be there. Just leave it out. John's a great guy. Don't talk about him in a bad way. Don't talk about him doubting. Just leave it out. But they didn't. Because they know we'd have doubt. So it speaks to us. Thomas, they left that story out, but they didn't. Thomas could have said, hey, guys, can you not bring up that whole doubting Jesus thing? But he didn't. They told the story because they know that we're going to have doubt too. We have a story of skeptical people, uncertain people, doubting people who ask questions. And we see how God deals with their doubt. Because the story wasn't about their doubt, but how God dealt with their doubts. And every time, God strengthens them. So why? Why is it that God strengthens people who doubt like us? Why is it that God reaches out and has so much patience with us? Because there's a big difference between having faith in someone and believing something. There's a big difference between believing something and trusting someone. See the difference there? I can believe information and doctrine and statements, but trusting somebody is completely different. And faith is not about information. It's about trust. Faith is a relationship, not intellectual certainty. Think of the people you're closest to, people you trust. I trust my wife. I honestly do, with everything. But the stuff she does doesn't make sense from time to time, most of the time. Just kidding. I know she's in the room, so I can say that. But I mean, I trust her, right? It's not about having all the right answers. It's about a relationship. In fact, look at this. This is from the book of James. It's a letter that was written by a guy named James. And he says this, you believe that God is one. Right? You have this information. You intellectually believe that God is one. He says, you know what? That is awesome. You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. Now, why do the demons shudder? What's the difference between these two? Because they don't have faith. They don't trust in God. They don't follow God. They don't have a relationship with God, and they shudder. It's not the information. It's the relationship. See, through doubt and uncertainty, it's how we learn. Trust has this place for doubt and uncertainty to exist so we can learn. Think about it. When we learn anything, we are challenging the ways things are now. Like, for example, we are 100% certain the earth is flat, right? We are 100% certain that the sun goes around the earth, right? We are 100% certain that Reno is east of LA. But the reality is, when we challenge ourselves, when we doubt and wonder and question and ask, we learn and we grow. But that happens in the context of trust. We can ask God hard questions. We can doubt and have uncertainty and skepticism and still trust God. What did John do when he had doubt? He sent friends to Jesus. He dealt with his doubt in a powerful and meaningful way. One more example. End of the book of Acts. So Paul is this Jewish leader, and he's been accused of some bad things, an insurrection and causing problems. He didn't do them, but he's still accused of them. And he's going to Rome to face the emperor for trial. Along the way, he stops in a place called Caesarea. And when he's there, he is brought up before a king and a governor, or Roman leader. And one's Agrippa, that's the king, and Festus is the Roman governor. And he's brought there and to kind of give his case. And then they say, you know what? Tell you what, we don't know what's going on exactly. We don't understand this whole trial thing about what you did wrong. So you tell us your story. And in Acts 26, he tells his entire story. Read it. It's really good. Just read. The whole chapter is his story. But at the end, we have this really, really powerful thing. Verse 24 of that chapter. While he was making his defense, Festus exclaimed, "You are out of your mind, Paul. Too much learning is driving you insane. Like, you know too much. You're too smart." Kind of weird. But here's the thing. He says, you're crazy. He's denying it. He's just ignoring it. Just forget it. You're crazy. And then Paul says this, "I am not out of my mind, most excellent Festus, but I'm speaking the sober truth. Indeed, the king knows about these things, and to him I speak freely. For I am certain that none of these things has escaped his notice. For this was not done in a corner. It's one of the most powerful statements of the Christian faith. He says, what happened with Jesus didn't happen in a corner. Didn't happen with someone having a vision off to the side or some that secret thing, some mysterious little thing. It happened and everyone saw it. Resurrection of Jesus happened in history, and people saw it. It was part of their world, and they told that story. Even when we doubt and have questions, he says, it didn't happen in a corner. People saw it. Paul also wrote this in 1 Corinthians 15. He said, I handed on to you as of first importance what I in turn had received, that Christ died for our sins in accordance with the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day in accordance with the Scriptures, that he appeared to Cephas and then the 12, and then he appeared to more than 500 brothers and sisters at one time. Most of them are still alive, though some have died. Now, why does he mention the 500 there, you think? Let's go ask him. It didn't happen in a corner. If you doubt, he says, if you doubt what I'm telling you, go ask them. They're over there. Some have died, yeah, but some are still here. Go talk to them. See, well, he wasn't afraid of doubt. But what do we do with our doubt? The problem is not our doubt, but what are we going to do with it? So I have 3 quick suggestions as we leave today on how to handle doubt. The first is, have courage to admit it. If you have doubts right now, or you've ever doubted, it's okay to say, I got some doubts. I've got some questions. I've got some uncertainty. That's what Thomas did. I don't believe you guys. I have doubts. That's okay. And Jesus honored Thomas's doubts. Second, are you willing to go to Jesus for answers? That's what John the Baptist did. He wasn't afraid to go to Jesus. And in fact, he wasn't afraid to tell his friends. It says that, he was in prison, right? John's in prison. He's locked up. So who goes to Jesus with the questions that John had? His disciples did. Which means he had to tell his disciples his doubts so they can go to Jesus. Small groups are about that community. Who do you share your doubts with? Who do you share your struggles with? Who can you talk to and ask questions in a trusting, safe place? John had that. You and I need that. So we can deal with those questions of doubt and then take them to Jesus. And the third thing is this. Are you willing to pray about your doubt? Remember that doubter's prayer? That father who said, I believe, help with my unbelief? Wants you to come to him, to listen, to grow, to learn, and to trust. Let's pray together.